Alright, got a couple of things to do. This has been sitting for a couple of days because I went off and kind of did a temper tantrum fishing trip. And I have a customer saw I've got to do some work on. So let me get this one put together. And I'm debating how far I want to go with this saw because I really want sort of like a benchmark saw, one that represents X-Torq's stock, and that's been this saw for a while. But the problem is, what happens is, it doesn't get a lot of use, partly because I want to keep it pretty, and partly because it is, a little bit plain Jane as compared to like my 562s and stuff like that, So I understand, I guess I understand the whole hop-up modded saw thing. I really do. But as I get older and I deal with more and more people, especially with the people who do the saw thing for a living, it's more theoretical than it is practical. Taking a saw and making it spin faster, make more horsepower, but also it will use more fuel. And guys like Matt the Sawyer, he notices stuff like that. The cost of doing operations matter, and fuel is one of those expenses. So it's one of those things where folks really like the idea of making these things run faster, and I have a couple of guys who just swear up and down for modded saws that I do work for, build saws for. But for me, I'm going to go out, and whether it's cutting a second faster, 3 seconds faster or not, I'm probably going to get the same amount of work done with just a good running stock saw with a sharp chain as I will, say, a modded saw. May not quite have as much fun. I mean, I really like running my modded farmer techs. They just make me laugh. And I really like running my Ultimate Old Man saw. Now that saw is practical because its focus was vibration and lightweight combined with a little bit more power than the standard 562 has. And that saw has been an absolute success because it just simply doesn't vibrate. More than anything else, that's what the issue is for me. Is I can run that, it's light, I can run that saw for a long time, I don't get tired. Now, back to the 372s. The reason why I've never been the biggest fan of the X-Torqs is because they're noticeably heavier than the original editions. They've got them by another pound. I don't care what the spec sheets say. They do, and I think I'll show some of that over time. And they vibrated more. So the combination of the two, they have sort of a larger feel because they're a half-inch larger. That doesn't make them a bad saw. It's just that's what I notice. You know what I'm saying? Having said that, the Jonsered iterations of the X-Torq were my favorite simply because they had the low tops, just like the 365. And the 2172, this one here, was, in my mind, the best of that series of saws. Now, this is just a humble opinion. There's nothing scientific about it. It's just I liked the look of the Jonsered, but I also liked the lower plastic, because of the lower filter. The difference in performance was negligible to me, but the perception of having a smaller saw mattered a little bit. And this saw ran good. It's a good running saw. So what I'll do is I'm going to bring this back to stock. I'm not going to really modify it. I'm just going to put it together stock. I'm toying with doing a base gasket delete for a little period of time, and I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'll do that, and that'll be the extent of its modifications. But I need that benchmark. I need that. What's a stock saw run like? And this has been that saw for me. Plus, it's prettier than a Husqvarna. So after all that, what the heck am I going to do? Am I going to build this or not? There it is. It's stuck together. At least the top end is. Let's finish off the rest of the saw while I've got time and patience, you know. Well, I absolutely roasted a drill trying to punch out the hole here. So I ended up using a carbide bit. That was hard enough to do it, and all the sparks were flying. It's like a damn grinding wheel. So these Zamara bars, they only have a 4 rivet tip, and they do come apart. If you're going to be doing bore cutting, you know, the game of vlogging style of felling, this is not the bar for you, okay? That style just absolutely roasts bar tips. I don't give a crap what anyone tells you. I've just seen too many. But if you're a firewood guy and you do occasional bore cutting, but you do a lot of just bucking, and it's really tough to beat these bars. In terms of their wear characteristics, they just go for a long time. They don't wear out. And if I'm going to use this saw, it'll be firewood. I'm not going to be felling with it. I've got too many other saws I prefer to do that work with, you know. So this one's going to get an adapted total, and which is kind of appropriate because when Tilton was selling the Jonsereds, which was the period of time I had bought this, they would come with a total bar. You know, that was the brand name for Tilton distributors. And so having a Tilton bar or a total bar on here, I think, is completely appropriate. That's a good running old saw. But that's the way the XTorq is supposed to run right there. You know, an idle's nice. You know, pull start's nice. And this is a very, very good sample of an XTorq. It's going to be really tough for those aftermarket saws to take advantage of this girl right here. And plus, it's a lot prettier, isn't it? Look at that saw. Isn't that a pretty saw? So, now it has decent bearings instead of this junk. I'll give those to Bob. So, alright. It's one down. Alright, let's see what we have on this one here. And this one here is going to be for me, so it doesn't have to be perfect, you know. But I do want to be kind of on the original side, so I'm going to stick to OEM parts on this. This is a 372 XPW, and it's actually a little bit unusual in that it has a 375 tag on it, because that's what Husqvarna called those for a very short period of time. You'll have to ask Bob the years, but they did. And this one's interesting because it had a full wrap handle that somebody decided to cut off. You see the little chunk there and a chunk there, which I don't blame them. I just think they're a waste of weight, you know. So probably some guy on the East Coast had picked up a saw from the West Coast and said, "Why am I carrying all that crap around? I don't need a full wrap bar." Okay, I don't know what size that is now. Oh, it's not. It's a Torx. That's a first. I don't know if it really matters. It's not unusual to see these with a limited ignition like this one here. This one's limited to 13.3 or 13,300 RPMs. And that, by the way, is the same as the X-Torqs were. So it's not as crazy a number as you might think. It's kind of a precedent's been set. So I guess you can almost intuit that the power characteristics are more like the X-Torq than the original edition 372s, and you would be correct. These tend to, you know, have a little bit more torque, pulling a little bit bigger bar, and they don't wind out to that higher RPM that a standard 50 millimeter 372 likes to be at. I happen to like this style cylinder more than actually I like it more than both the X-Torq and the original edition 50 millimeter cylinders, but it's a personal preference. It's not that it's any better. It's just, for me, it runs like a little bit larger saw, because it is, and having a little wider range of RPMs that the saw is comfortable in running is nice for me, especially when I'm getting tired. It's one of those saws where you can just lay the bar on the log and pull the trigger and it just starts cutting like crazy. And I just happen to like that style of power band. Now there's a lot of people who don't. This is not going to win any cookie races, I can tell you that. It just simply doesn't have the chain speed because it's down a few hundred RPMs, unless you go up to an 8.2 sprocket, which you can. I guess that's an option. This one here, I believe, has a scorched top end. And it's worth me doing a little bit of investigation to try to figure out why that might be. You know, it could be a boot that's ripped, or it could be a seal. If it was a customer saw, I would actually go through and do a vac test and all that. But since it's my saw, I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to go change the seals in the boot and put a new top end on it, and assume that I fixed the problem. And not knowing exactly what it is, but just hitting the areas where leaks are possible, you know, base gasket, PTO, and flywheel side seals and boot, by replacing all that stuff. Yeah, I'm taking a gamble, but this is my time. This is my fun. And so it really doesn't really matter. It's not like I'm trying to be production here. Got a lot of oil pretty much everywhere. What a mess. It doesn't look that bad. Oh, guess what? Somebody put some goofy ass. Look at that. So that's not 1184. I don't know what that is. So somebody had done a no base gasket build on this saw, and that seal absolutely failed. No question. Which means that's probably why the saw went lean. It probably was sucking right through the base gasket. Something rattled around up on top. But, wow. Look at all that oil in there. You know something? I think I will have to split the cases on this. I wonder if the gasket between the cases failed and I have bar oil all on the bottom of this thing. There we go. Oh, look at that. Look at that. You see what, this is a first. That's a case screw. So a case screw came out with the flywheel. That's not good. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So this is beginning to look to me like a sub, yeah, these are just, this is a subpar. There's a screw that was there. And I don't know if it was from the factory or was this done by a shop. We'll see when we get the gasket though. But it looks to me so far that this might have been somebody's lousy rebuild gone bad. When's the last time you saw a saw that you can pull apart with your bare hands? Huh? That's a first. So we have multiple issues here. But the biggest problem is this, is the bearing pocket is shot. So this case is shot. I can't do anything with them. And notice yet again, these. I do not like seeing those plastic pieces of crap in there. So I'm afraid this saw is basically toast. I'm going to have to come up with a set of cases. That's a big disappointment for me. I was hoping to do something with this saw. But what you're looking at here, I believe, I really do. I think this is somebody else's rebuild gone bad. But that's basically a ruined saw. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if luck would have it that I've got a either a case half or another set of cases so that I can build the saw around. You know, maybe I can use this side here if I can find another good PTO side. And the saw literally rattle apart. And of course it could have been because this bearing was loose here that it caused such a vibration that it literally rattled these cases apart. But the damage is that the bearing pocket is beat up to the point where the bearing is a slip fit in and out. I could probably take one of Bob's bearings here, you know. Yeah, see that? I mean, that's it. You can't fix that. That's too much. That's a ruined case. So while that thing was hammering around, it also loosened up the case screws, and the cases began to move, which is why all the bar oil ended up inside the crankcase. and it moved enough that it actually sheared that locating pin. So this is about as catastrophic a failure as you can get. Well, it's a little bit muggy this morning, and I have to start living my new reality where I have to do some significant changes in lifestyle. Or another way of putting it is kind of getting back to life to where it used to be, because I need to lose a bunch of weight. I don't know how much sawing I'm going to get to today, but I'd like to test those two saws again. But I think what I need to do is part of that program that I have to get into, start splitting wood. You know, do it by hand instead of by, you know, the powered splitter. And combination of that plus diet, see if I just can't start dropping weight in time for my upcoming date with Destiny, you know. That was the heart transplant saw, and that is hard wood right there. And the chain's pretty dull, but I got another bunch of logs to split, right? So who cares? So I better go take this wood I have in the bucket and get it back up in the barn. I'll do this every day that I can until, you know, I get the right weight. So talk to you later. Bye.